hopefully this time we don't drop out again. But Drew, why don't we go back to Chicago Bears really quick? Which one of those two quarterbacks gives this team the best chance to win in 2020 before we move on?
Week one's going to be Trubisky. If he does not start for this franchise, it's going to look like they made a mistake a few years back. Going up, trading for him, he's going to play week one as a starter. Unless somehow preseason is just a complete bust. I don't know where it was because the comments have dropped. Someone says he throws 10 interceptions in the preseason. Yeah, okay, he won't be playing week one. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to protect him.
Throw enough passes to throw 10 interceptions. I mean, if you remember, going back to it, that was one of the big complaints, is that Bears didn't try hard enough in the preseason and didn't compete well enough in the preseason to get these guys ready for the regular season. There was massive complaints about that.
This is going to be a Mike Glennon scenario. Mike Glennon's going to come in, play for Trubisky in the Mike Glennon spot. He's going to come play for a couple weeks, fail, and then Nick Foles is going to come in. The crowd is going to be cheering for Foles to come in, and they want Foles to give him a chance. I mean, I know a few Bears fans, and not a lot of them are Trubisky fans.
Yeah, but again, I think a lot of that's just due to recent performance. I know a lot of Bears fans myself, and all of them were all in on him in 2018. You know, it just wasn't their year. They had the double doink to Cody Parkey. And then it's funny to see how fast things kind of changed, because 19, all these Bears fans came in with such high expectations, and the team just underperformed. It seems like Mitch Trubisky went from he's our franchise quarterback to the guy can't play football overnight.
Well, that's because, year three is kind of it's the year to show. It's the year to prove it. And I talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. Not a lot of quarterbacks get this kind of success as far as staying with the same coach, the same offense like Trubisky has in his young career. This is not a norm. This is a very odd thing for someone to happen, and he did not succeed. So I don't blame any of the fans being upset. I don't blame them wanting to have somebody else besides him there. I just don't think the organization is willing to take the step just yet.
And I think you're right. It's always tough to be the GM who admits I made a mistake. I think the Bears, even when it's not your guy, you still have to justify it to the owner, like, hey, this guy that you probably approved and they probably asked you about when you're drafting him this high, he's not the future. You made a mistake. It's always tough having that conversation, even with an owner. But I think it's time in Chicago. I think it'll very likely be a scenario like you spelled out. The Bears will struggle a little bit early with Trubisky. As soon as they get to a turning point, Nick Foles comes in. Maybe they do well enough protecting him that can be the catalyst. But that division's still not going to be easy. I mean, the Vikings are going to be tough. The Packers obviously look like the toughest team in the division right now. I think the Vikings will still be a playoff team despite losing a lot of pieces in this offseason. And then you've got Detroit that's on the rebuild that might very well be better than they were in 2019. The Bears are going to have to figure it out quick. That's all I can say.
Well, Cody says that the Bears had a kicker, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Very true. Very true. If Cody Parkey didn't have the double doink, maybe we wouldn't be having it. But isn't that enough to buy him enough time? I mean, yes, it's the kicker's fault. Everybody knows it. I mean, we were one bounce away from beating the Eagles there.
It just wasn't enough, man. It just wasn't enough. I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, I don't really blame fans for being upset and wanting more out of their team, and especially their starting quarterback. But I'm kind of with them, man. I don't know if Trubisky has it. I was a Trubisky fan in the sense of, like, he's going to get better. I've seen improvement. Year 3 was such a disappointment. Year 4 is going to be that much harder.
Absolutely. Sean, good to see you, man. We hope you get better from your flu, but we're glad you're here with us.
Real quickly, when Matt Nagy came out and said, we're going to simplify offense, and it still didn't improve, those are a lot of red flags, man. Those are a lot of red flags.
I absolutely agree with that. Let's go back to Cam Newton for just one more second, and then we'll move on to some of these wide receiver signings. I mean, I want to talk about Emmanuel Sanders, who we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. We had a bunch of other wide receivers get signed today. I want to ask you about this in Cam Newton's kind of perspective here. I know we've talked about likely landing spots for him, but is there a scenario where these guys like Jameis Winston, guys like Andy Dalton, guys like Cam Newton can't really find the deal they're looking for and are willing to sit out until next season? Because obviously if you're Cam Newton, you're not wanting to take the backup spot. Would it be better to hold out and wait for a team to grenade and maybe sign in the middle of the season or even next year instead of, taking a bad deal, maybe being a backup and and being stuck behind a guy that you may never get to play.
Maybe like a Joe Flacco or an Andy Dalton scenario. But I think with Cam and his injuries, I think it's better for him and like his camp and his thought process would be better for him to get back out there. I honestly believe that with Cam. I think these injuries, you got to remember, this is 2 years now. This isn't just last year. This is the year before that. This is issues with him not staying sturdy. He's got to get out there and prove he can be healthy and play in the NFL still. When you look at like Joe Flacco, they really put him on injured reserve because Denver was done with him. Mm-hmm. As far as Andy Dalton, same scenario. Yeah, he got banged up, but realistically, Cincinnati Bengals are done with him. So to me, it's more a must-play this year as Cam than it is like Joe or Andy Dalton.
Absolutely. Cody says, what team do you think failed the offseason? It's difficult to say. I guarantee you there's going to be one of these teams like maybe Miami that's buying all these pieces up and some of them don't work out. That is always a red flag to me in free agency because we love what the guys used to be at the team. You know, guys like Byron Jones, guys like Kyle Van Noy, those guys that when they were with the Patriots and with the Cowboys looked like they were amazing. Now that they're changing systems very often, it just doesn't work out. I think you're going to have one of these big buyers or multiple where it just doesn't work out again. But as for a loser right now, I would put my team on that list, the Tennessee Titans. They're supposed to be in champion-chasing mode, right? Yes, you were 9-7 in the regular season, but you started Mariota and you started 2-4 in that kind of span. They let a guy like Jarrell Casey go for a 7th-round pick. I could pick Houston. I could pick the easy one, right? Anytime you trade DeAndre Hopkins for basically peanuts, I could pick the easy one and say they lost, but I'm going to say the Titans right now are a big loser in my book, Cody. I'm going to also say Denver. I'm not wild about them taking a lot of older players when they're probably in rebuild mode and just throwing money at them. Guys like Jarrell Casey, guys like A.J. Boye, even though Boye is not old. He's definitely not been the same guy that the Jaguars and the Texans bought back in 2017. They've taken a lot of gambles on a lot of players and paying them big money. Not crazy about their offseason. Is there a big loser in your book?
I don't want to talk about the obvious teams as well. I can agree with you about the Denver thing. The Melvin Gordon thing was a little bit of a head scratcher. I thought they believed in Philip Lindsay and Freeman there. I guess they don't. That kind of surprised me. I thought their run game was one of their strongest things. I know it kind of took a step back last year, but it was their sophomore years. Talking about a third year in the league, I kind of thought these guys would bounce back. You're adding a third horse in the race. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I'm actually going to stick with that division, and the only reason I'm going to say that is the LA Chargers. They were in the race of trying to bring in Tom Brady, and I think they kind of put all their chips in being Tom Brady. And now they're sitting going, what are we going to do at the helm of our team, of our offense? And I know there's a lot of talk like we're not going to bring in a veteran. We're going to just go out and draft a rookie quarterback.
Let's not forget about Tyrod. And I know it's not the sexy pick, and that nobody wants to have Tyrod Taylor as their starting quarterback. But he did lead the Bills back to the playoffs. He's not the worst player in the world, right? I don't like them adding Cam. There have been a lot of rumors that people are saying the Chargers are a great landing spot for him, but they already kind of have that guy in Tyrod.
That's not an off-season move, man.
No, I know. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying from a quarterback position, I get losing Brady is kind of an issue, but they have picked 6. They're very likely to go out and get one of these quarterbacks. Even if you don't get 2 and you don't get Burrow, you can take a swing at Herbert, or I know some people like Jordan Love. I don't really like him at pick 6, but they could do that if they decide that he's their guy. They have options at quarterback, and that's why I'm not as down on them for it. But you're right. This hasn't been an offseason to write home for if you're the Chargers fans. You could say Patriots.
When you put your chips in and you expect Tom Brady to give you a chance to be there, and it doesn't happen, and you fall back on Tyrod Taylor, and now you're saying, well, I don't know if I'm going to bring in another veteran quarterback and I'm going to draft. Dude, no offense to Tyrod Taylor, because you know I'm a Tyrod Taylor fan. I've liked him. I speak highly of him. He doesn't turn the ball over, but he's not flashy. He's not going to win that division. Tyrod Taylor at the helm of the LA Chargers does not even get second place in that division. And that's the issue is they're talking about the most important position on the field, and they're sitting there going, well, I guess because Brady didn't work out, we're just going to go ahead and draft a young guy and start. Well, you're talking about a team that's full of talent, and you're willing to go, all right, we're going to start back over.
And that's true. That is definitely true. But I think the Patriots could be on that list too. A lot of talent leaving. Guys like Kyle Van Noy leaving. Yes, they did bring guys like McCourty back, but again, he's getting long in the tooth. You have essentially no plan at quarterback unless Jarrett Stidham turns into the next Tom Brady that nobody got to see and nobody knew about here to this point. I think the Patriots could definitely be on that list of losers in this offseason so far, but it all depends on how this draft turns out, because there's a very good chance they go out and grab one of these quarterbacks like Jake Fromm that they value so much higher than everybody else and turn him into another quality starter there in New England.
It would be definitely a sight to see, and Belichick, if it worked out for Belichick, he'd definitely go down, even though he is the best coach of all time. Bennett says, what's going on with Jadeveon Clowney? Do you think that he'll be a Hawk again, or do you think he'll sign with somebody else?
I still think it's someone else, man. But he's holding out for that $22, $23 million deal, I think, and I just don't think it's coming. I think the NFL's made it pretty clear that, look, for a guy who's never had 10 sacks in a season, we can't give you top edge rusher money. I think there's going to be a lot of offers at 17 to 18, but I don't even know that he cracks 20. I don't see the team out there that's going to have the financial cap space to throw $20 million at a guy right now like Clowney and then go sign their draft picks and everything afterward, because you're probably going to have to make moves to move guys off there. I don't think they're going to have the cap space to offer him anywhere close to that. I'd have to check the cap figures. I'm not sure where they're at these days, but when they're signing guys like Philip Dorsett and calling it a day, they're probably low. I don't think he's going to be a Hawk again, Bennett. I do think he's going to go somewhere and probably get signed for close to that $18 million deal, maybe even after the draft.
I don't think Miami at the Buccaneers. If it's going to be 20, it's going to be one of those two teams. They're the two teams with the cap space still. I mean, yeah, they've been spending a little bit, but they had so much that if he's trying to get top dollar, that's where his agents need to be talking to. Those two teams. I don't see it anywhere else. And I don't think it's going to be 20. I think you're right. I think he'd be lucky to get 17.
Absolutely. Jordan wants to know, will Stafford be healthy and lead the Lions back to the playoffs? Healthy for now, yes. I think they are going to be much better shape. I don't think they shut him down due to an injury that happened last year. They said it was from a back injury dating all the way back to 18, and he'd just been playing through it. They kind of waited until the season was over and then just shut him down. So I'm not worried so much about it. I think as to leading him back, I think the Detroit Lions need to get much better as a team if they're going to get back to the playoffs with their division being as tough as it is. Conference. I mean, it's not easy getting a wild card in the NFC anymore.
Yeah. Cody says Tyrod Taylor was a Pro Bowler in Buffalo and accurate still in Cleveland. A lot of people are overlooking him in his opinion. I guess I am too, man. And I like I said, I am a Tyrod Taylor fan. I just don't think Tyrod Taylor in this division, because you got to remember it's the Chiefs, it's the up-and-coming Raiders. We all were kind of slacking draft picks. You bring in Tyrod Taylor, yes, into a talented Chargers team, but I just don't see it. I don't see it. I think they're going to have to go with a veteran.
There. I think they're going to have him as a reliable backup, but I think even with his time in Buffalo, the only way you're really going to succeed is if you can build a team kind of like the Ravens did around Jackson, and then you still won't have the same success they did. You need to have just one of the best, if not the best defense in football. You need to find a way, great offensive line, and great down the field thrower. He's okay in short range situations. He's just not the guy that's going to go throw a 40-yard bomb every time you ask him to, or when he catches the defense falling asleep. It's much rangeism that, again, every year you get older, that athleticism starts to run away. I don't think there's a team in the NFL that looks at and says, we can win a Super Bowl with this guy. And if you're not trying to win the Super Bowl, what are you doing, really, in the NFL? So I get you what you're saying. He was a Pro Bowler in Buffalo. You could blame the point in the NFL. He's going to get another shot.
Yeah, I mean, you just said exactly what I said. More words, man. So you nailed it. You nailed it. It isn't going to work with just him. I know they said no more veterans, but I think they should, and they're obviously going to draft someone too.
All right, let's talk about some of these wide receivers getting signed today, Drew. Let's talk about Brashad Perriman to the Jets really quick. Although I don't like the Brashad Perriman at $8 million deal, when he's basically the last guy in free agency, I was like, well, at least they got someone. How highly do you like this sign, or how highly do you rate this signing? And did the Jets make the right move by letting Robbie Anderson go and not being able to get a deal worked with him?
The Anderson wanted in money from the Jets. As far as the Perriman signing, it works. It doesn't fix the issue. I still think they need to draft a young wide receiver. I wouldn't be mad at them if they went out and signed a nuts, because you're going to need as much as you can. I mean, I am not a Sam Darnold fan. I never really kind of hid that from anybody. Don't really see a lot out of him. I know you're a bigger guy on him than I am, but if he's going to fix all of his woes and worries, it's more guy, add guys that can run routes, can be where he needs them to be, create space when he needs to create space to make this quarterback work out in the NFL.
I think you could absolutely be right. Problem is solved, but I felt the same way about Robbie Anderson. I see it as a downgrade. I like Robbie Anderson better than I like Brashad Perriman. But when you're running out, I like that they got somebody because they
have to.
I mean, they paid to bring in the offensive line. I know they haven't signed top name guys or anything like that, but they've done decent line. I think now basically it's Judy or Lamb, and if one goes off the board, we might see the Jets trade up.
If Sam Darnold in his camp, I'd be throwing fits. I'd be mad and upset because you're not giving me the weapons to succeed in the NFL. It has to be receiver. It has to be.
Absolutely. And I've been saying that. They've been needing to put guys around Sam Darnold. Brashad Perriman's a guy, and he looked good with Jameis Winston, so maybe he could be the guy that kind of elevates Sam Darnold as a second option, works with Jamison Crowder. Jets having a much improved wide receiving core. And guys, I do see that the video is skipping and lagging a little bit. It is on Facebook's end. I'm sure it's probably due to their bandwidth. I want to let's move over to Robbie Anderson. We've talked about him a little bit. You like him going to Carolina?
You kind of talked about trying to do with the rest of the receivers. This is a good move. I to be honest, I had the contract information.
Essentially getting that 10-year that, while I wouldn't have loved it if the Jets had signed him to that before going into free agency, if they would have given it to him instead of getting Brashad Perriman,
which is
Devin Funchess on his way out to Green Bay.
Devin Funchess, so much success with Cam Newton, and then leave there and not have much success afterwards. I think if there's going to be one guy to get success out of him, it's definitely going to be Aaron Rodgers. He's an accurate passer, open receiver, but I just don't know why he didn't succeed in other places.
And that's very true, but again, playing with Aaron Rodgers, you're now getting an outside threat at wide receiver, bigger target that can do the possession work. I like this a lot. I mean, they've taken a lot of gambles on guys like Geronimo Allison, guys like MVS. It's really panned out as their second and will make the Packers better. My only question now is, does that mean wide receivers off the board in round one? Is this going to be one of those signings that the Packers look, actively kind of refresh this wide receiving core? I want to see them go and draft a guy at the bottom end of the first round, like maybe a Justin Jefferson falls to them, because I think that's what they were missing when they started playing in the playoffs against some of the better teams.
You do actually think that this is going to make them think that they can wait into the second round, maybe trade up into the second round and grab someone that falls out of the front. I think this kind of puts emphasis on fixing that offensive line. You lost Balaga. You got issues with keeping Aaron safe. When you bring in Funchess, you kind of go, well, Band-Aid. This is not the fixing piece, but this might be the Band-Aid. Maybe this kind of gives them a chance to focus on something else. But if it was me and you're like, hey, my offensive lineman fell to me into your offense, who can run decent routes, who, like Jake says, can open up the underneath stuff to your bigger receivers, this is it. I mean, let's not ignore the fact that Robbie Anderson was a decent receiver in the Jets organization, man. I mean, they don't throw the ball well. Nothing against Sam Darnold. They just don't throw the ball well. They haven't in a long time. The last time they had a great quarterback was what? Brett Favre, Chad Pennington. Don't tell me Mark Sanchez. I don't want to hear that. This is as a third piece of the receiving. Carolina, you lost Greg Olsen, so you're not going to have that tight end mixture. You bring in someone like him, it works. You're right. Teddy Bridgewater isn't a deep ball threat quarterback, but don't ignore it. He can still do it, and every now and then they're going to chance it.
Exactly. Justin says, as a Packers fan, he hopes the Bears always keep Trubisky. Well, let us know, Justin, how do you feel about them signing Devin Funchess? I like it. Again, low caliber move, but I like it a lot more when they go and sign and draft another wide receiver in the first, maybe second round. They still need to add to that wide receiving room, in my opinion. Juan wants to know, as a Texans fan, he doesn't think this will happen, but is Deshaun Watson being traded a thing? He says he hopes not, and I absolutely agree with him. There's no way you can trade him. Right? No way. I know he's posting all kinds of Drake lyrics and everything else. Re-signing him will be an issue after this move, but you've got a couple years to smooth things out with him before that really becomes a problem. You can't trade him. If you trade him before that deal even happens, the McNair should fire Bill O'Brien. Hands down. You get rid of the coach before you get rid of Deshaun Watson. There's just, when you've hit on a quarterback this well in the draft, you cannot let him walk out the door for anything. There's nothing you could give me right now that would make me want to trade Deshaun Watson. Maybe the Bengals with the first pick, and you give me more picks as well. But even then, what you're getting out of college is not a sure thing at all. I think you have to hang on to Deshaun Watson, who you know could be an elite quarterback going forward, instead of just chancing it with another guy. That's the way he sets your franchise back.
Yeah, we're going to keep on rolling. I have problems on my end with Facebook. Let's go to Emmanuel Sanders, man. Let's talk about the signing that I absolutely love.
This is the best one of the offseason, I think, when you talk about wide receivers. How long have we said the Saints need a second wide receiver to pair with Michael Thomas? Forever.
Forever.
Does Sanders have enough left in the tank to get them a Super Bowl win? I think that is kind of my biggest question because, yes, they've needed the weapon. Are you worried about his age at all, though?
No. He has enough in his tank still left to be a decent number 2. I think he showed that in spurts in the 49ers last year. And do you remember that was Garoppolo throwing to him? I like Garoppolo. I think he's a great quarterback, but he's no Drew Brees. This team lives and dies off of what Drew Brees has left in that tank. And when you have someone like Michael Thomas, that's obviously a massive, great weapon to use that just seems to be unstoppable. But when you have Emmanuel Sanders in there, you've seen games in Denver and with the 49ers that he can light up a defense quickly. You have that threat, man. I think this is the piece they're missing. And I could be so off on this, but man, the Saints added the right receiver through free agency, the best one they could have, who's left there. And I think they have a great opportunity to be in one of the best teams in the NFC.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, going back to last year, without a guy like Emmanuel Sanders, they pushed the 49ers to, having to score in about 15 seconds at the end of the game. So, yeah, bringing in a guy this talented, I think is great. The only kind of age your deal kind of anyway, where you're not expecting this to be a long-term solution. I like them bringing in this talented of a guy and taking a chance on it because this only makes the Saints better. And I think Emmanuel Sanders might, like you said, be the missing piece that gets them back to being one of the best, if not the best team in the NFC. Well, all right, Drew, that was fun. Is there any other receiver you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about Philip Dorsett? We can. He was signed today.
No, I think I'm good on that one, man. I
mean, Seattle signed Philip Dorsett, bottom tier guy, adds a little bit of speed. I don't see it being a high impact signing because he's been a guy that has just kind of bounced around. Patriots really couldn't use him. Andrew Luck couldn't find a way to make him work. Maybe Russell Wilson's the key, but this is a depth move. I'm not too worried about it at all. But I gotta say this, man. Go ahead.
When you talk about the Seahawks, you're not like, man, they really need a number 3 really bad. That's not something you talk about.
No, you're saying they need an offensive line. They need to get better on the offensive line, and they need some help on the defense. And they've made strides with that here recently, but they're not quite there yet. I think when we're talking about the Seahawks signing Philip Dorsett, it's a footnote. It's something that we don't even really need to broach. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? I know Facebook has been kind of our enemy, as always, with this connectivity, but at least it wasn't on my end, so far as I can tell.
Yeah, Facebook was not our friend today. We hope our next episode might be me and you in person. Phone call?
I don't know. We'll just see how bad the quarantine is. They might change the standing orders to shoot on sight if you see somebody in the street. So we'll see how it goes.
We're in necessity, man.
Hopefully, yes, and hopefully, yeah, we are in this. You need us. Hopefully, also runs a little bit better. We appreciate each and every one of you guys sticking with us. Again, I was supposed to be keeping track of it. Didn't do it. You didn't see me writing any names down, did you? But special thanks to one of you because it was a great episode. A lot of great, insightful questions. We always appreciate that. Special thanks to Cody, Justin, Juan, because, again, these are the names I have in front of me. But even if you didn't comment, thank you so much for sticking with us. We will be back to talk sports with you soon. And it just cut out again, so I don't even know if they're hearing me. But we will be back, and we appreciate it.